It's Africa Month, and we wouldn't miss an opportunity to deliver those positive and uplifting stories of Africans who shape our continent into what it is today. You're watching Stories Untold. I am Pule Mulebatsi. Welcome to the show. Our authentic power is found in the rhythm of living in our truth and purpose. And this is the place that shows us how to give of ourselves. One such person that understands the art of fine-tuning their lives for greater good is Melody Miya. This is his story.
My name is Melody Miya, host on Daily Tets on SABC 1, MC for London Pirates, part of the 947 family, or should I say radio broadcaster, a social entrepreneur, and also someone who really believes that I'm a child of God, born and bred from Katlehong, which is Ekaya. I left Katlehong in 1992, if not 93, due to the tribal wars. I left to live in KwaMashu with both my parents, Bablaki no Mamkuku. And when we went to Durban, KwaMashu, it was out of fear, trying to save and survive. And I think today, when I look back, it was also hoping for new life. And that's how we left for KwaMashu. And when we got to KwaMashu, it also wasn't an easy time there. There was a lot of wars happening. There was a lot of issues in KwaMashu at the time, a lot of crime also. I come from a family where the first person I have to mention is my grandmother, the late Gogo Sylvia Mapumulo. She was a nurse. She was a matron, and she was the first person I can say I count as like the biggest part of me. In terms of growing up, we grew up in a home that was very busy, very loud, because my parents owned businesses since we were kids. My dad used to have a welding business when he was staying in Tegwini. My mom ran a tuck shop that I worked from the age of 6. And since that time, I learned how to deal with people. I learned how to hear people's stories. I mean, someone would come and buy, my mom would not like to hear this, but someone would come and buy upoloni for 2 rand. I didn't give him for 3 rand because I know in their house there's more than this. But I think that's where my heart that has desire to assist was very important.
Melody left Katlehong to escape tribal wars, only to find himself in the middle of another tribal war in KwaMashu. But he could never have expected that the next battlefield he would face would be in school.
In the year 2005, I was doing grade 8 at Sparks Estate, and I experienced a lot of bullying. I experienced a lot of crime from other fellow pupils being fundana or studied with. And in Durban, one of the things that is very common is that there's something called ipoch, which is your protector as kids. If you don't have that, they'll take your stuff. And because I came from a family where we owned a tuck shop, there was always that thing that kid has money. If you search his pockets, you'll find it. So eventually I had to get someone to protect me, you know, when my parents weren't around. And that was the start of the understanding of bullying and how far people go to either protect or, you know, invade people's privacy. Bullying deals with self-doubt. It creates a big gap between what I am and what I think I am. Bullying also makes one feel like they're nothing in terms of value in life. And it also kind of makes you live in fear and anxiety. You end up living like you're not worth being protected. Why doesn't the world love me? And you live in fear. You'd be sleeping at night, you just wake up because you could be thinking you're hearing the voice of the person that's bullying you. And that could affect the person you become. Because most people that were bullied end up becoming bullies or protectors. In either way, they get involved in the system, and it doesn't always work out perfectly.
Often the right path is the one that may be the hardest for us to follow. But the hard path is also the one that will make us grow as human beings. Melody had to walk this hard path. He had reached his boiling point and realized that he needed to grow. Enough was enough, and he needed to now stand up for himself.
I think from when the time I was bullied, this one time there was this boy that bullied me at primary school. Again, I don't promote violence, but he bullied me, and one day I just stood up and I went at him. You know, you explode. And it wasn't a great thing because my grandmother had to come to school, but the whole experience was that if I didn't stand up for myself, I don't know what the chapter would have been. I don't know where it would have gone to. I could have started smoking weed because I'm looking for affiliation and I'm looking for these things. But I was very fortunate to be able to just stand up, and he never bullied me again. In actual fact, other people started gravitating towards me because I stood up for myself. And today when I look at bullying, bullying requires to help people find their voice. Without their voice, people will never know what to do. And it goes all up to varsity. You get bullied by friends to do things. Into the workspace, you get bullied to work more than you should because you're afraid to stand up for yourself and say, hey, that's not my responsibility. I'm not doing that. So it really speaks into ownership of who the person is.
Sometimes when there are no heroes to save us, we have to be our heroes and save ourselves. Melody was transformed from being a victim to hero and protector. He left Johannesburg to start a new chapter in his life.
Eventually, I left Durban, got to Joburg. I didn't deal much with bullying in Johannesburg because I think I had conjured up the courage and mindset to say, even though I'm born in Katlehong, grew up at Tewini, I had a thicker skin as a young person. So, and that's how I started dealing with people that were being bullied in this township. And I don't support violence, but as kids, it's the only thing you have except your parents, you know? And we're able to help, which is one of my close friends now, Karabo. He was bullied when I met him. And that's how we've become friends over 15 years now. In high school, coming from Katlehong, I was the boy Opumelo or from the township who's going to a Model C school. And I had to prove myself in the Model C that I am good enough. Yo, guys, you know what I mean, hey? But when I'm in the township, I had to prove that I'm catching up. You know, it's a mindset. But it groomed me to adapt. I can step into any room and I'll still be able to carry myself with power. And I think the high school element was, how do you own your story without owning your story? A friend of mine, his name is Mokorele Serongwane. Today, he's an attorney. He comes from Harvard University. I studied with him at UJ. He was part of my pivotal life at Alberton High. And one of the things that he taught me in my journey is that, Melody, no matter what happens, you can't change where you come from, but you can change where you're going. And we need to own Nuguti. I come from the township. I come from the dusty streets as we are here today. I could have shown you the mansion, but what good does it show someone who's watching it? So for me, it was about owning the chapter of high school. We had a lot of friends that were very wealthy. We had friends that had all of these things. And we learned not to envy. But in that time, we learned how to value ourselves enough so that we can compete when our time comes, when we go to university.
Welcome back to the show. Melody Miya is a powerhouse that refuses to be boxed. He is a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur, and an all-round creative who's passionate about enriching the lives of young people. Melody wasn't always so self-assured, and different aspects of his lives weren't always so harmonious. It took a lot of synchronization for him to hit those high notes of his life.
I went to the University of Johannesburg, and key part of the story is that my family didn't believe I was going to make it. Key point. So my results came out, and as the results came out, we went to the local BP or local garage to go get our results in the year 2010. And when you got there, I saw my name in the newspaper. I couldn't believe it. Rushed home to go show my dad the newspaper, and my dad was like, I don't believe it, go buy me my paper. Eventually, we saw the results, we were all happy. Shocking enough, I got a distinction. I was shocked. I was like, wow, well, Melody, okay. You know, I was shocked. Only to find that my parents at that time didn't have the resources to take me to university. So I remember counting 3,500 Rand in coins. And we were counting Malia registration. And it was a tough period. It was very embarrassing to me because it felt like my parents didn't think I'll make it. But we got to learn that my time at the University of Johannesburg since 2010 to date has been a phenomenal and pivotal point of who I am today. Everything else has been seeds. I mean, the roles of Mrs. Ferreira at Alberton High play a key part as a teacher. She really was instrumental. But when I got to university, again, I met a new level of life where I'm on my own, and decision making is going to change who I can be or who I can't be.
Melody is a fighter and he managed to overcome financial challenges he faced.
I studied sports communication undergrad. That was my first course. I didn't know what to study. So my dad was like, Melody, you play sports, you play rugby, you play soccer, you swim, you run. Might as well just. So I did sports communications and completed my undergrad, which was tough because finances were still very scarce. Fortunately, I got a bursary in the last 2 years and things kind of changed. But after that, I did my honors in sports management, which was a 1-year course, completed it. I was super happy. And from completing that course, it also went further to then I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to do my master's, because I did go do a temp as a junior lecturer at the Tshwane University of Technology teaching in sports. But then, of course, got invited to work for a multinational company and got into the workspace. And before even I could get into the workspace, I spent a bit of time in university learning how to work, because I dealt with certain programs. One specific one, which I love the most, is called Actuaries on the Move, which is AOTM. We took kids that had aspirations to be actuaries, who majored in English, maths, and science. And I headed up that program, which was a beautiful experience because we're top 1 in the country. That whole program shifted also the mindset towards me becoming a junior lecturer, me deciding to do my honors, all based on the typical black child that didn't have enough information. All the time we use, like I could tell you right now, kids are playing, but a Model C child right now who's living in the urban life is not playing. They're playing on a skill they're gonna use in the next 5 years. They're playing a guitar that they can use to perform, make money from. Unfortunately, Tina, we end up playing amamabus, amatops, and we can't use it when we get to 18, 19, 20. So that experience from Actuaries on the Move was phenomenal. It was amazing, because those kids today are in their professions, and I'm happy to have seen those 30 kids actually get out. Not all of them made them, but the majority, which is like 82%, did find their way through. At the university, I did quite a few things. I headed up community engagement for my res. So I then started building a culture within the University of Johannesburg, Epicare Reses, emphasis of us doing motivational tours. A lot of kids come to university carrying baggage. They carry physically stress from home, and they end up not performing. And we did various tours that helped us shape how we want to see these youngsters. Not just that, we did also a lot of sporting tours. We started up something called Conquer Games, which resonated within the university students, where different students will come and back different primary schools, and those primary schools will be backed by their university reses. So we'd get 8 schools, 10 schools, and each res would adopt a school, and they'll come and support them on the day. It's a 1-day event, but there's a build-up of 2 weeks where we visit the schools, we do war cries, and all of that is to build self-confidence, which again plays into the issue of bullying, plays into the issue of self-understanding. And we've been doing this for the last 6 years, from our own pockets, but with the support of entities like University of Johannesburg, black-owned IT company, which is Uluembu Business Services. People have just said, listen, we love your idea, how can we help? I founded an initiative called ReaderSat. ReaderSat is a Saturday school that helps young kids use their Saturdays to build themselves, to harness their skills that are going to help them the next 10 years. The whole idea aims to give them power in this journey. So what happened was 2015, we adopted a school, and the school is called Tulisa Primary School. And Tulisa Primary School got the opportunity then to work with us, thanks to, of course, Umem Tibane, who was the principal. Then she was deputy, and she brought into the idea of, let's teach more kids to learn how to read better.
The work that I do with Melody is around reader set. We have learners who are doing grade 6 and 7. We usually identify learners who are doing very well and those who are struggling. Then we combine the 2 groups, one to do reading, literacy and numeracy, as well as life skills. We are proud to indicate to you that the first group that we had, which was doing grade 6, managed to ace English in matric last year. and majority of them are now in tertiary institutions, and they are doing very well. Above that, towards the end of the program, there is Conquer Games, which is sports where they go in and relax, compete with other schools on indigenous games, and they enjoy that. Melody's contribution makes a difference in the school. Most of those learners who have gone through this program are in a position to be articulative. They are very assertive. They are articulative, and we are proud to be saying they are readers, because whenever we meet, they will tell me that we've been reading this novel and that novel. Now we have a culture of reading.
Welcome back. You are still watching Stories Untold. Melody Miya held himself to the highest standards. He never made excuses nor took pity on himself. And it is that attitude and tenacity that got him the accolades that he has today. This shows that as a young person, Melody is the type of person that walks to the beat of his own drum.
The desire for me to actually want to change the world, to impact spaces. I mean, to date, we've helped over 1,500 kids to learn how to read. And that was, we don't get paid for it, we do it out of the love of it. We've helped people into spaces. It all comes from ukambo kubona. It's a Zulu saying that means the more you travel, you see things. So for me, in particular, the desire, the hunger, the love to do what I do today is all from seeing and experiencing people.
The path to success is paved with pain and suffering. And although Melody has accomplished a lot, he has had his own share of challenges that, however, changed him for the better.
The challenges I've faced in my life, beyond just bullying, they speak to things like love. I mean, it was easy for me to seem like I can buy love as a young man because people thought I came from a family that has money. I don't. My parents' family were hustlers. None of them did anything extraordinary except wake up and find ways to make money. I started learning and realizing that there are real challenges out there, which is if you don't know how to love yourself, you'll end up getting to the wrong friends. You love friends that are available, but not the friends that are good for you. And that played a big part in my challenges because betrayal became a thing. Friends that would betray you, and you'd end up hating yourself because you feel like you were wrong, but not realizing that it's because you chose people that are not at your emotional or IQ level, EQ level, and you acted like they were. Beyond friendship, other challenges that came, it was self-doubt. I mean, at the age of, I think, 13, 14, I dealt a lot with suicidal thoughts because of the bullying, because of the fitting in, because of dealing with people that were around me. When I started working at my first corporate job, I mean, I was phenomenally happy. I got a great paying job. I was very young. I didn't have a lot of expensive except home. Bought a brand new car. Life was boom, you know, like we've arrived. But in the moment of arrival, I did not realize that the pressure had multiplied. All I was doing was working, and I felt like I didn't have time to spend the money. I felt like I didn't have time for me. And all I do was work, 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 work. And the pressure mentally really sat on me because at this moment, at this time, I now lived just to feed the flesh, no longer the spirit, no longer the mind, and I'm not living the life that got me here. And I struggled. I really struggled, and I slipped into a depression, which I didn't know. I just thought I was just going through a phase. And it got so bad that unfortunately I was involved in a car accident because I was so tired and fatigued that I ended up being hospitalized. Stayed in hospital for 3 weeks, and I eventually learned what depression meant. And I understood why it's important to be able to teach about mental illness, to teach about the stereotypes that we have, that when a black child says that they feel like they're depressed, they're like, what's depression in Zulu? And it feels like you're just nagging, you're acting up. And truly it's because you've lost a sense of self, a sense of identity. And it was tough because no one understood. But I always said I carry that story with pride because I had to go through that today to be able to share the story for the next young person. Is that until you know who you are, you know why you are, you'll never understand what you need to become.
I met Melody in my first year, Mangfika at UJ, where he was my senior, Mangfika corner. So from there, that's how we originally met. We became friends after we started working together on our projects as res, like formal functions and informal functions as res. So I think Melody is a talent, or he is very talented rather. Everything that he does very effortlessly. So from him being on a mic and speaking, it's not just a melody you see when he's on stage. He is the MC. He is the talkative person. He is the very loud person, which is very nice. So that whenever it's taken and put into the work structure, it's that much more easier. So so he's very talented. It becomes very easy for him. For me, what I've learned the most from him rather is to stand up for myself and to be confident, and not to doubt myself in anything that I do, which I think it's one of the biggest things. And I'm saying the three parts, it's not just one. All in one, it's just a matter of me being the best version of myself and looking from what he says to me and from himself just being himself as well.
Melody is a role model, I think, to a lot of people in the community. As someone who's always just been a go-getter, someone who has just always just tackled life on, someone who said, you know what, he's got that can-do, will-do attitude, someone who said, you know what, I'm going to get the best out of my life. And knowing him has always protected me, he's always looked after me, made sure that I'm okay. And for someone who has also been like my mentor, he's like a second dad. So he was like a teacher, role model, someone I could always look up to, my protector basically, could say that, yeah.
When I stand today and I look at the story that I've been fortunate enough to kind of write with my pen, it's a story of hope. And I think I'm one person constantly motivated by possibility. The possibility that you can become, the possibility that you can achieve, the possibility that things can change says, why not? The future holds a lot of storytelling. I look forward to being a UN ambassador in the next couple of years. I look forward to helping more young people learn how to read, meaning that creating more reading camps in South Africa. I look forward to creating and building a school, an actual school. And I look forward to being able to being a parent, grandfather, co-parent in this community and communities in South Africa. Just saying the school of thought starts with school of principle and morals. And I look forward to that narrative being pushed into spaces. I define myself as light. Some people see light as blinding, that you can't see, but others see light as an opening that they can realize that they can actually see. And to put it in a small way, there are people who look at light as a reason of not going in that direction. So that guy's light is too bright. He is my enemy. He thinks he's better. When someone looks at the light like, wow, I like your glow, it makes me realize that I can also glow as much. And that's how I see myself. When I walk into a room, I desire to be light, to bring joy and clarity to people's spaces, and not to bring harm or darkness, because end of the day, then what a waste.
The story of Melody has shown us that persistence and resilience happens when we work through difficulties and challenges. So for you at home, face your own challenges like Melody did, so that you can also fine-tune your life. From myself, Pule Mulibatsi, and the rest of the team, it's a goodbye from us.